Welcome our panelists, as I mentioned before, Fernan Black and our presenter, Jamie Fatheree from our Financial Wellness Department, is going to be joining us and helping us, answering any questions as well between both of them. Uh, and again, Jamie Fatheree is going to be our keynote speaker. Jamie has worked with the credit union for over 24 years and has spent the last 10 in our financial wellness department. He's designated a certified credit union financial counselor, and she was recently promoted to manager of the financial wellness team, and says that her favorite part of the job is hearing from members who are excited to share that they've met a goal, they've been working together, because that's when she knows he's made an impact in their lives. And she, trust me, has impacted many lives during her time in our financial wellness team. And she has booked well over 1,000 new appointments throughout the years she's been with the credit union. Jamie is a single mom of two boys. Uh, he's knowledgeable on this topic. He knows how to get rid of that bad debt for sure. So she will give us and share firsthand examples of how to convey the concept itself. Jamie, I'll check back with you in a few moments.
Thank you, Vital. Thank you all for joining us today. I know yesterday, of course, we celebrated love and relationships with those we love, I guess I should say, with Valentine's Day. And today we're going to turn the tables a little bit and talk about breaking up. But this time we're talking about breaking up with something that a lot of people have a bit of a toxic relationship with, and that is debt. I've been there certainly myself, have found myself carrying a lot more debt than I was comfortable with on a couple of different occasions, and have implemented the strategies that I'm going to talk about today to break that cycle and finally live with a very healthy relationship with debt. I can't quite say I'm debt free because I do still have a mortgage, but I definitely have a much healthier relationship with it. And so if I could save you some of the heartaches that I went through in trying to deal with debt and learning how to manage it, then I think I will be satisfied. So hopefully you'll get to take away something that's useful and helpful to your financial health. Today, we're actually going to look at America's relationship with debt. Definitely kind of a love-hate toxic relationship there, from every level, government on down. So I'll take a look at that. We'll discuss good debt versus bad debt. Is there such a thing as good debt? We'll talk about 4 steps to break up with your debt, hopefully for good, or at least learn to live in a healthier relationship with it. And then we'll go over how the credit union can help and some tools and resources to help get you there.
All
Tell you want to
right.
read off our first poll?
Yes, ma'am. So as mentioned before, we got our first poll. How would you rate your relationship with debt? A, I don't have any debt. Congratulations. B, I have a healthy relationship with debt. Congratulations as well. C, it's toxic and it's time to break up. Congratulations, because you know what you're looking for. Let's see, Jamie. I'm going to say that most of our attendees are B. They have a healthy relationship with debt, but we'll figure it out. You're the expert.
Well, I'm thinking we're going to have quite a few C because that's why they're here, right? They're learning to or
Oh,
want to learn how to break up with it.
that is true, but let's
Let's
see. We'll see in a couple of seconds how our audience is going to relate to us.
How about you, Bito? Would you say that you have a healthy relationship or a toxic relationship with debt?
I have several toxic relationships,
I
but
appreciate the honesty.
right. All right. So the poll has closed. Believe it or not, we have 11% saying that A, they don't have any debt. They are very well ahead of the game. We have B, 22% says that they have a healthy relationship with debt. And a 67% majority ruling, it's a toxic and it's time to break up. So,
Great. Well, that's
Dr.
why we're here.
Jamie, please.
Yeah, that's why we're here. So hopefully we can help you end those toxic, sometimes even abusive relationships with debt, right? So let's kind of get into it. Let's talk about debt in America and what that looks like right now. American consumer debt, that is, all types, sits at about $16.51 trillion dollars with a T there. That's quite a bit of debt that we're carrying. Total credit card debt is about $1.05 trillion dollars. Again, quite a bit just in credit card debt alone. Average mean household debt, that's basically all it includes mortgages and everything per household, about $165,388. And interestingly, Gen X, that's going to be my generation, that's going to be early 40s to early 50s, is carrying the most consumer debt of any generation. So we definitely have some toxic things going on in the Gen X group. And so we need to break those cycles so that we don't pass that on to our kids. Also, of course, debt remains a leading cause of stress and divorce. When people are polled about the main stressors in their relationships, debt continues to lead that answer. So, I've seen it myself in counseling, how getting people on the same page in regards to their finances can actually heal marriages. I don't claim to be a marriage counselor in any way. I don't have the training or the licensing for that, but I have certainly seen couples improve their relationships when debt is no longer the major stressor in them. We're going to jump into another poll. Vito?
Correct. Thank you. Approximately how much credit card debt does the average American household carry? A, $1,000. B, $3,700. C, $5,500. Or D, $7,500. Well,
What's your guess?
I'm going to guess based on the prior statement you made, including mortgages and everything else. I believe we're in D, $7,500. But again, that could be me. Let's see let's see in a couple of seconds what our audience and our members are going to be answering here. What do you believe is going to be our members' return
I was,
here with the answer?
I was going to give Fern a chance to take her guess. Fern, do you have any guesses on where we might be?
I'm gonna say C, 5,500.
All right. So the polling has closed, and we have 0% for A, 1,000. That's pretty easy to cover nowadays, even though we know some of the numbers that may not state that. But B, 5% say 3,700. C, 38% says 5,500. And the majority rule with a 57%, 7,500, D.
All right, so we've got some smart cookies in here. The correct answer is D, 7,500. So according to nerdwallet.com, as of 2022 data, this is an increase of almost 29% over 2021. So we're definitely seeing those debt levels rise. I think, of course, during the pandemic, people were home, right? We weren't traveling, we weren't going out to eat as much. Money for many were still coming in, and so we saw debt levels start to go down. But now that the world's kind of opened up again, we're traveling, commuting back and forth to work more often. We're starting to see those credit cards being used a little bit more. We also, of course, have inflation to consider. And so I think all of that is contributing to the higher debt loads that we're starting to see. It's a little bit of a worrying trend. We don't want to see that number climb too high, but I can certainly understand why we're getting back up there from where we were back in 2020 and 2021. So let's talk about good debt versus bad debt. And is there such a thing as good debt? Some people will say no, you should know anybody anything, right? And certainly if you fall in that category, it's not wrong. It's great to be completely debt free. But there are some things that we consider acceptable, right? That is not harmful or as toxic. And so anything, if you take into consideration anything that increases your net worth, These are things like your mortgage. Generally speaking, your home's going to increase in value. And so you're looking at an increase in your net worth as you pay down that mortgage. We don't consider that a bad debt. Same thing with education loans. You'll see the examples down there. Good education, you can hopefully increase your income based on your education. And generally, those loans are at lower interest rates and have some flexibility to them. So we don't necessarily consider them bad debt. Definitely not good to carry too much of it, but still acceptable. Okay. Also, things like debt on items that increase in value over time. Again, that's going to be a mortgage. It's usually considered a good debt. That asset will increase over time. And then debt that you can easily pay off in a short amount of time. So small amounts of credit card debt that is more out of convenience. You pay it off every month. That's usually considered acceptable. You're carrying those high balances and have really high interest rates, maybe not so much, but anything that is something you can pay off in a short amount of time, especially if it has a low interest rate, is generally considered acceptable. I also mentioned that example, business loans. Again, you don't want to put your business in jeopardy with too much debt there, but we consider business loans not to be as toxic or bad if they're actually contributing to growing your business and your success there, which of course is going to bring in more income and make it easier to pay off the quote unquote bad debt. So speaking of bad debt, we consider bad debt anything that has really high interest. So even vehicle loans, if it's carrying a really high interest rate, that's going to cause your balance to go above the value of that vehicle, that's considered a bad debt. Debt on something that decreases in value faster than you can pay it off. Again, I'll use a car as an example. If you're not putting a down payment on a vehicle, basically as soon as you drive it off the lot, you probably now owe more than that car is worth. So always a good idea to put the down payment on there and pay it off faster than the value decreases. And then high balances on revolving debt. So credit cards, lines of credit, things like that. If you're carrying really high balances, generally credit cards are going to be among your higher interest rates. That would be considered a bad debt that you want to get paid off or at least paid down as soon as possible. Examples of these, of course, payday loans, notorious for having ridiculous interest rates. I've seen them as high as 300%. I feel like that should be illegal, but they're still out there. Stay away from those if you can. Again, I mentioned those high interest credit cards and also the auto loan balance is greater than the value of the vehicle. Those are the things you really want to focus on paying off and getting rid of if you have them hanging around. Let's talk about the steps to debt-free living. Now I'm going to go into these in more detail, but just to give you an idea of what we're about to get into here. The first thing that you want to do is take stock. Know what and who you owe money to, right? A lot of times we have so many different credit cards and we're struggling just to make those minimum payments, and we may have some other loans sitting out there. Maybe those nasty payday loans are sitting out there. The first step in paying off your debt is getting control and knowing who it is that you owe money to and how much you owe. The second thing you want to do is make a plan of action. You may need to work with your creditors to try to reduce payments or interest rates if you can. It may be that you need some help with organizing that debt. You want to set goals and create a spending plan. Again, I'm going to go into some more details because those are kind of the meat of the topic today. The third step is working at it. While the step 2 is kind of the meat of it, the step 3 is going to be the hardest part, right? That's where we're putting all of these plans of action into action and changing habits and things like that. So step 3 is going to be working at it. And then step 4 is planning for the future. So basically, once you are debt free, you've reached that kind of healthy relationship with debt. We want to talk about building savings, creating new goals, and setting yourself up to remain debt free in the future. So let's dig into step 1, taking stock. Again, the first thing you want to do is make a list of everyone you owe money to, including your mortgage, student loans, credit cards, even money you borrowed from family. If you owe money, you need to write it down, okay? Get a really clear picture of how much you owe and who you owe that to. Include your balances, your minimum payment amounts, and your interest rates. These things are going to help you know who to pay first or who to prioritize. And then you want to either pull out or create your monthly spending plan to determine how much you can afford to pay above your minimum payments. This step is probably the most important. If you don't have a spending plan, or other words, is a budget, if you don't have that, it's going to be really hard for you to determine how much you can really afford to pay towards creditors. We've got to know where our money is going. And so if you're not taking that step, it's going to make everything behind it really difficult. If you need help with creating that spending plan, come see us, come talk to us. One of our counselors can help you with creating one. We also do a webinar just on creating spending plans. I think that'll be coming up here in the next couple of months. So pay attention to that one. We can help get you on the right track. But that step you don't want to skip. It's tedious. Most people want to bypass it, but trust me when I say don't do it. You've got to do that step. Step 2 is making a plan of action. This is where you're going to set goals. Determine why. Your why is important. Just like any other goal that you have, if you have an understanding of why you want to pay off your debt or get out of debt, it's going to make it easier for you to achieve that goal. Write it down. If it's, just the financial freedom, if it's wanting to, put more towards retirement, take a vacation, whatever it is, write it down, stick it somewhere that you're going to see it often so that it's a constant reminder of why you're doing what you're doing. Now, part of your spending plan or your budget is to determine your needs versus your wants. And if your needs and wants are not met within your spending plan, then you're going to have to determine what you're willing to sacrifice. So prioritizing things that are really important to you. The purpose of a budget or a spending plan is not to tell you how to spend your money or to restrict you from spending money, but it is to help you prioritize your spending so that you're taking care of the things that are the most important. And paying off debt, that's, I'm assuming why you're here, is that that's important to you. You want to make sure that you're building that into that plan, right? So it may mean that you have to sacrifice on some things in order to meet that goal, knowing that once you've met your goal, you can always add those things back in. Okay, and third here, this one's really important. It's having an emergency savings fund. Now, I think that this step is important to have before you even start your debt payoff method, which I'm going to talk about here in a minute. Now, Fern, I know you're a big advocate for having an emergency savings fund. Can you tell people why you think that that's so important?
It is very important to have an emergency fund. And the reason for that is because let's say you're paying off debt and something comes up, car breaks down, or you have this home expense that you have to pay and you don't have the money for it. Well, that's where an emergency fund comes in. That way you don't have to resort to debt. Because here you are paying off debt and something comes up, now you have to go back into debt. So that's why an emergency fund is very important.
Absolutely. And how much would you say if somebody didn't have an emergency fund at all, they're starting from zero, how much do you think they should put into that emergency fund before they start their debt payoff plan?
I normally recommend $1,000 as a starter emergency fund prior to paying off debt. Then after they have at least $1,000, then they can start paying off debt.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's, most of those minor emergencies are going to fall within that $1,000 range. When you hear about emergency funds, a lot of people automatically go to the 3 to 6 months worth of income, which can be overwhelming if you're starting from zero and makes it hard to even start a debt payoff plan because sometimes it just takes so long to get there, right? But I think when we start with that smaller goal of maybe $1,000, it's more achievable and it's enough of a cushion to kind of protect you from those things that you said, that a car breaks down, you have to do a repair, you're not having to put it on credit. You can use that emergency fund. And then here's the thing with that, with the emergency fund, and this was a hard lesson that I had to learn. As you build it up, right, emergencies are going to happen. Things happen in life, unexpected expenses, a hospital visit, a tire has to be replaced, something like that. They're going to happen and it can get really frustrating. And so you're building up this emergency fund, and one of these things happen, right? You got to go replace a tire, and all of a sudden you're knocked back a little bit. And you've got to stop the debt payoff plan and build back up that emergency fund. And I had done this a while back, and it seemed like every time I got to that like $1,000 mark, something would happen, and I would have to dig into it to, cover my unexpected expense, and I'd have to, start again. And I'd get really frustrated. And I was talking to somebody about it, and they said, I know it's frustrating, but actually be proud of yourself, because that's money that you didn't have to put on debt. So you're able to continue to pay off your credit cards or any other debt that you have while using that emergency savings fund. And that's what it's for. So while it's frustrating sometimes to have to use it, keep in mind that that's what it's for. So save yourself that heartache and frustration if you find yourself there, and knowing that that's actually a good thing, because that's money that you're not having to put on a credit card.
Jamie,
Yes, sir.
does the credit union offer this type of account that you're mentioning, emergency fund? Is there a cost to it?
There is no cost. We absolutely do have an emergency fund account. So it kind of allows you to separate those funds from your regular savings or checking. There is no monthly cost or anything. It earns dividends just like our other savings account. And the important thing, or the nice thing, is that there's no restriction to it. So when you need the money, you have access, but it just allows you to separate it from everything else. Great question.
And would you say that, I mean, I know that Fern and yourself said $1,000, but should they start like every paycheck with $40, $50, little by little, until they can build it up itself?
Yeah, I think using like a payroll deduction or something is a great way to get there. A lot's going to depend on your spending plan and what that says you can afford to do, right? Some people don't have it. They're barely making it paycheck to paycheck, just making minimum payments, right? So if you tell them, hey, set up a payroll deduction to go into an emergency fund, they might be looking at you like you're crazy because they don't have that money. So then we look at other sources, right? You may have to start selling some things. Um, I've heard, basically if it's not nailed down, or your kid, like your kin, sell it if you have to.
Yeah, or pawn it. A lot of people go to pawn shops and they lose the item because they can't get it out.
Right, right. So, with online options, for clothing, you can sell, ThredUp or all of these different websites that you can sell things on now. Makes it really easy. You don't have to do this big production of a yard sale. You can sell things little by little, do some research on values and things like that. But there are other ways to kind of build that emergency fund if you don't have it, paycheck to paycheck, to do that deduction that you were talking about.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you,
Sure,
Fern.
great questions. So then, of course, once you've got your emergency fund established, really important, then the next thing is to choose your debt payoff method. So let's take a look at the most common payoff methods. The first one is the debt snowball. This is where you are paying the lowest balance first. So remember, I said you're going to make a list of all of your debts, everyone that you owe money to, including your minimum payments and your interest rate and the balance, right? So you're going to look at the lowest balance first. And once you've put your spending plan together, you know how much you can afford to put extra towards debt payments. Any extra is going to be going towards that lowest balance. So let's just say after your spending plan, you've got about $50 left over that you've decided you can afford to pay above and beyond your minimum payments to your debt. That extra $50 is going to go to the lowest balance credit card or loan that you owe. You're going to continue making that extra $50 payment until you got it paid off. Then once you get that one paid off, you get to cross it off your list and move whatever you were paying towards that debt to the next smallest balance in line. And you're going to continue to knock those payments down, or those loans down, by snowballing that payment. So every time you move to another debt, that payment's getting a little bit larger, hence the snowball. This one is really popular because as humans, we are wired to respond to rewards. And when you're paying off that smallest balance first, you get that reward faster, and that's going to motivate you to keep going. Okay. But the second school of thought, and a lot of economists actually prefer what we call the debt avalanche. And that is essentially the same method, except for instead of paying the lowest balance first, you're actually paying the loan with the highest interest rate first. And so that allows you to save a little bit of money, because you're trying to pay off that highest interest rate first. The pro, like I said to that, is that you can save some money by knocking out that higher interest rate first. The con is that if that highest interest rate also happens to be one of your highest balances, it can take a while to get that paid off. And some people get discouraged by how long it's taking to get that one knocked out. And so when we have, you know, our brains, like I said, are wired to the reward, it's taking longer to get to that reward. So if you can think a little bit more long term and be patient and really, you know, just work at it, the debt avalanche is a better method if you're trying to save some money in the long run. The third option is debt consolidation, and that's where you're combining all of your debts into one payment. Now, here's the thing about debt consolidation. It's not really a payoff method, right? You're not really paying anything off when you consolidate it. You're just transferring that debt into a new loan. And so while the pro is that it is easier to make one payment, you have a risk of accruing debt again if you don't actually close those cards and loans that you consolidated, or if the payment is not really sustainable. So you've got to really determine, one, is that payment affordable for you to continue making without relying on charging to credit cards again? Otherwise, you end up in double trouble. Also, if you have some bumps and bruises on your credit or your income isn't quite high enough, you may have trouble getting approved to consolidate large sums of money. So depending on how much debt you're carrying, there can be some difficulty there. Now, for some people, or I would say actually most people, probably use a combination. And I'll be real honest, I did. I used a combination of some debt consolidation, basically things that I was willing to completely close and get rid of and knew that I wasn't going to use again. I consolidated. Cards that I wanted to keep open, I made myself pay off using the debt snowball method. And so, you know, you can determine what's going to work best for you, but you know, these are kind of the most popular options that we see people use. Now, one of the things that people typically do, well, I'll say what's probably most common and what many of you are probably doing right now is you're trying to pay a little bit of extra to every loan that you have, right? So you hear this thing like you shouldn't make minimum payments, always try to make more than your minimum payment. But the thing is, if you're putting all of your money towards making more than the minimum payment on all of your debt, and then you don't have money left over for your regular monthly expenses, then you're charging up those cards again, and you're probably feeling like you're not getting anywhere. It's kind of like your tires spinning in mud, right? And so that's the mistake that a lot of people make, is trying to spread themselves too thin, making more than the minimum payments on all the debts, and then none of them really go anywhere. So that's why we really want to be intentional on implementing one of these strategies that we've talked about. You tell you can load up the
Bring it
next
in.
poll.
Yes. Which debt payoff method sounds best to you? A, debt snowball. B, debt avalanche. C, debt consolidation. D, other. So we'll see what we got over here. What do you say?
I was gonna say, if you are saying other, if you have heard of something else, please put that in the questions. I'd like to hear what some of the other options that people are using. Because certainly these aren't the only options, right? They're just kind of the most common.
Yeah.
Fern, you and I are kind of in the same school of thought. What are your thoughts on debt snowball versus debt avalanche versus consolidation?
Yeah, in my experience, when I went through this as well. When I paid off debt, I used the debt snowball method. And I mean, like you said, you know, you're wired to just think, okay, the smallest balance, then the next balance. It's just faster to me.
Great.
All right. So the poll closed, ladies. Let's see what we got. So 57% of our audience and members say that A, debt snowball seems to be the right one for them. 29% says the debt avalanche, B. 14% debt consolidation, C. And fortunately, nobody said other. So that means no loan sharking or anything like that, predatory or anything like that. So go ahead, Jamie.
Good. So, yeah, I think debt snowball is probably the most commonly known if you do any type of research. That one comes up a lot, as well as the debt avalanche. And so, I know Jack, even though he's not on screen with us right now, he's a big advocate for a debt avalanche. And so we go back and forth on that one a little bit, but um, I think both of them work. It just matters on your mindset, which one you think that you can work at better. The key is that you're implementing one, right? That you're doing it, you're putting in the work. So these things usually bring up a lot of questions. So we're going to pause here for just a second, see if we've got any questions from the audience. Butel, do we have anything out there yet?
Yes. First of all, people would like to know if they can get a PowerPoint of this presentation. Of course, as Fern mentioned, on the survey at the end, you can request it. There's also the option that now, since we're in YouTube, you can go and see this entire webinar one more time. But either way that you want to do it, please feel free to do so. They'll be able to get the copy hopefully early next week sometime for it. So we have a question here. I wasn't able to read through it yet, but so for credit card outstanding balance on due date, if we just pay minimum balance as you suggested, instead of the current outstanding balance, how does it affect our credit score or interest on card?
So if I'm understanding the question correctly, they're saying if they're only making the minimum payment, how will that affect their credit and interest, right? So here's the thing. If you can afford to pay off your balance in full every month, absolutely, that's what we should be doing, right? But then you're not considered in debt. So when we're focusing on those who have several balances across multiple credit cards and or loans, you're focusing on making the minimum payment on everything except for that smallest balance or the highest interest rate, whichever method you're using. As long as you are making your minimum payment on time, there should be no negative effect to your credit. Now, of course, here's the big, I guess, sticking point here. When you're creating your spending plan, the idea is that you are creating it so that all of your monthly expenses and whatever wants you can afford to have, you're able to use cash to pay for those things. So you're no longer relying on credit cards or loans to get by for your needs and or wants, right? So you're making the minimum payments. Yes, you're still going to be accruing interest on those balances, but your balances should still be going down if you're not using those cards. That is going to increase your credit over time. And if you're paying down the balance faster on that smallest debt and you're getting that paid off, that's also kind of lowering that balance to credit limit ratio, which also affects credit score. So you're going to see positive things happen with your credit as long as you're continuing to make your payments and you're making them on time. There's not really a difference, if you're making minimums on everything versus paying an extra $10 or $20 on all of them. It's not going to make any difference on your credit score. Does that sound like I answered the question if I understood what they were asking?
Yeah. I will say yes. The same thing. We have somebody asking how much extra should they apply to the credit card in order to really notice a change? What would that be?
Yeah. So my answer is that it's going to depend on what you can afford to put towards that credit. So it's not a matter of seeing the impact. You're going to see an impact if you're making more than the minimum and you're not charging back on it every month. You're going to see that balance continually go down. But how much is going to depend on what you can afford to do. Again, the idea being that you're paying cash for all of your monthly needs and wants, and then the money that's remaining from your budget is going towards that debt. So you're no longer having to charge every month. Those balances will continue to go down and you're going to see that impact fairly quickly, depending on how much extra you can afford.
Correct. One last one. Somebody saying, look, I'm considering refinancing a vehicle. I wonder if I should consolidate my home and auto payment. All this has pros and cons. So go for it.
Right. So something to consider, depending on how much time you have left on your vehicle and what it is. If you refinance your mortgage, take cash out to pay off your vehicle now becomes a 15 or 30-year vehicle loan, right? So over time, you're going to be paying a lot more for that vehicle than if you just continue to pay it separately. Generally, I would not recommend doing that. However, depending on your specific situation, you may be in a situation where that truly is the best option for you in order to get rid of that payment and make it easier for you to have a healthy budget. And so that's where actually working with one of our counselors can help you determine that and make that decision based on your specific situation. Let us review your credit, or excuse me, let us review your spending plan and determine what's going to make the most sense for you. Generally speaking, I would say probably not the best idea. It's going to end up costing you more in the long run, but situations may vary.
Correct. Now, I would say based on experience and everything else in prior webinars, that if somebody's trying to lower their credit card rate, a vehicle collateralization can bring the rate down and have that money to pay the credit card, and that should be able to help the individual get rid of one debt and start a smaller, shorter term one.
Yeah. So we're talking about doing a cash out refinance on a vehicle. Now that's different, right? Because generally it's going to take you, they say if you're making minimum payments on a credit card, if you don't charge anything else on it, you're looking at about 7 years to pay it off. But if you had the equity in a vehicle that you could roll it in, one, the interest rate's probably going to be a lot lower than that credit card. And most vehicle loans are going to max out at 5 to 6 years. So potentially paying it off faster as well. Yeah, those are all options that we can review with people depending on their circumstance and their options. Yeah.
So Jamie, for time's sake, we can probably get a couple more of these at the end. So if you want to continue, please.
Definitely keep those questions coming. Those are great questions, and we'd be happy to answer some more at the end. But for now, let's jump into step number 3. Again, like I said, step number 2 is really kind of the meat of it. That's putting it all together. And step number 3 is the hardest part. That's where we've got to work at it. This is where we're going to be implementing that debt payoff plan using whatever method that you chose. This is where you've got to put it into work. That's using your spending plan every month, right? Which is, like I said, super important, because if you're not doing that, you're not going to know how much you really have extra to put towards that debt. So you want to continue using that spending plan every month, track your income and your expenses, adjust as needed, and then take that extra money and put it towards the debt. Be very intentional about where that's going. And of course, this is where you're going to be working on self-control. We've all developed habits over time. I assume we're all adults in here. Some of us with more years than others. And, we've had a lifetime of setting certain habits for ourselves in terms of spending and how we manage our income. And so we may have to work on changing some of those habits, and that takes time. I will say, show yourself some grace during this time. Don't be so hard on yourself. Just like anything else, we're going to make mistakes, right? Or something's going to happen, and we've gone over our emergency fund and we've had to go back and use a credit card for something. Don't beat yourself up. Don't use that as an excuse to give up on your plan. Give yourself some grace, pull yourself back together, and put your plan back into action. Again, our credit counselors are here to help you and help motivate you and help keep you on track. So if you feel like you just need that extra bit of motivation or somebody to kind of keep you in line, so to speak, call us. Let us help you do that. You don't have to do it on by yourself. All right, and that brings us to step 4. This is where we're planning for the future. So basically, you've implemented your plan, you've made the change of habit, you've gotten your debt paid off, or you're at least at a place where you feel like you're in a healthy relationship with debt. This is where you're going to work at maintaining that healthy relationship. So this is where we want to set new goals. What do you want to do with that extra money? I can tell you when I became debt-free, and I, again, using that term loosely, but basically where I didn't have a lot of credit card debt, anymore. And so where I was making $300 and $400 a month payments towards credit card debt, I didn't have that anymore. And that freed up a lot of my income to do other things. And so at that point, it was this amazing realization that I could afford to put my kids in karate. I could afford to do other things with them. We were able to afford to plan an annual family vacation. And so these are those new goals that you get to set for yourself when you are no longer having to make those debt payments. So set the new goals. What is it that you want to do with that money? Don't just allow yourself to throw it away, just spend it because now it's back in the budget and you don't have a plan for it. Actually set a goal and create a plan for that extra money. Focus on savings. We talked about that emergency fund early being about $1,000. This is where you want to start to beef that up to the 3 to 6 months. You have extra money now that you're not making all those debt payments. Start building that emergency fund. Start working on your retirement fund or add to your retirement fund if you already have one in place. So increase that and look to investments. So you can really start to kind of build some wealth and some security here so that credit cards don't become an issue again in the future. And of course, we want to work on maintaining those positive spending habits. So, yes, we can kind of put some of those wants back into our spending plan that maybe we had to sacrifice early on, but you still want to maintain those positive spending habits. And I do want to kind of touch on one thing here. When I talk about, paying off debt and ending relationships with credit cards and things like that, I do not think that credit cards or credit in general is evil. I think that they have a place. I still have some credit cards. I think they're wonderful to use as a convenience. Ones that have rewards, definitely utilize those. But I think you've got to establish that healthy relationship first. And that's what we want for you, is to get you on track, establishing a healthy relationship with credit and debt so that you can use it in a way that truly benefits you and doesn't stress you out. Our final poll, Vitel, take it away. Oh, we can't hear you, Vitel, you're muted.
Thank you. I was answering a question. That's what it was. But anyway, if you didn't have the monthly burden of debt, what will you do with the savings? A, take more vacations. B, add to the retirement savings. C, take on a new hobby. D, other.
And again, share with us what your other is if you choose other.
Yes, that's correct. Jamie, as you saw when I said take more vacations, my finger was pointing at me. That would be me. But
Definitely.
yeah,
Yep.
What about Fern? What do you say, Fern?
I would say same, take more vacations.
Yep.
Can't
Definitely.
have enough of those.
All right. So let's see what we got. So 35% agree with me and Fern, take more vacation, A. 60% said add to retirement savings, B. That sounds something like Jamie would do. C. Nobody wants to take on a new hobby. And 5% said other. Now, there's nothing on the Q&A about other yet, but feel free to throw it out there if you want to let us know what the other will be. Amy, back to you.
So we have some smart cookies again, and adding to retirement is big. So never too late to do that. I think if you can beef that up, by all means, add to that retirement, but save yourself a little bit to play with too. You're allowed to have some fun with your money. You work hard for it, take those vacations, take up a new hobby, enjoy your money. Otherwise, what are we doing? What are we saving it for, right? So I think balance is important. All right, so let's talk about quickly here. I know we're starting to round out the hour here. Let's talk about financial wellness and how we can help you. We do have 5 certified credit union financial counselors on staff to meet with you one-on-one. They are experts in financial assistance for bruised credit situations, the advanced financial indebtedness solutions assistance. That is a mouthful. Basically, it means debt payoff plans. We can help with that. We provide continuous accountability, support, and guidance, and of course, these seminars, webinars throughout the year. Here's something really important. It's a popular word. This service is free for our members. So make sure you take advantage of that. We do not charge you anything. You're not under any obligation, but we do want to help you reach financial wellness and help you establish a healthy relationship with debt and credit. You can give us a call at 833-FINWELL or email us at financialwellness@aacreditunion.org if you would like to schedule an appointment. Jot down those numbers or take a picture of the screen. Don't forget it. But do reach out to us. We would love the opportunity to help you get your debt in order. Some tools and resources if you want to kind of work at this on your own. We've got financial wellness at aacreditunion.org. That is our department website. That's going to give you a little bit more information about our department and some of the programs we have. The navigator.aacreditunion.org is also a free online tool that it's basically an educational resource. They've got information on everything from, how to pay off debt, investing, mortgages, everything that you could think of that you want to know about financially speaking. They've got videos, articles, learning modules, things like that you can go to at your own pace. And then savvymoney.com/AACU is our credit monitoring. It's free for our members. You can monitor your credit. It's actually great when you're going through that debt payoff plan to kind of watch your credit score tick up as you get things paid off and see how it's impacting you. So I know somebody had that question about how it impacts. You can kind of track for yourself as you go through the program, which is great. You tell, I'm going to throw it back to you so you can do a few public service announcements before we answer some more questions. I think you're muted again.
Sorry, I just didn't want to hear the background noise that I have here. But as most of our people are attending, we hope so, you are aware that most of our loans and savings products require a basic membership with the credit union. So if nothing else, please consider opening a share savings account. You can do this either going through our website, aacreditunion.org, aacreditunion.org. You can call our 800-533-0035 number, or you can visit one of our branches. Just let them know that you were watching the webinar today and have them entered this promo code for you. It's B as in boy, D as in David, 4412, and we will credit the initial new member deposit of $6. So you have nothing to lose. But because this is the week that we're giving love, instead of using this code that I just mentioned, only this week until Saturday, again, this week until Saturday, you're going to use promo code CU, C as in Charlie, U as in Utah, 2023, and we will credit your account $26. So again, spreading the love of the credit union only this week until Saturday. Use that code. Later on, if you decide to join the credit union, you have to use the original code BD4412. But for this week only, as the love is in there, we're passing that to you guys. Plus remember, once you're a member, you're always a member, which it means that doesn't matter if you leave the airline industry, you decide to go to work for the city or some other private institution, you can always take advantage of our credit union benefits. This page that you're looking at right now, this is our quarterly offers. So if you were to scan that QR code there, you'll be able to see our offers. For this quarter, we have great auto rates on used and new purchases as well. Refinance vehicles, we do as well, just in case. As mentioned before, somebody wanted to know if they refinance a vehicle. Yes, we can help you with that. And we have some discounts that apply to it itself. So that's something that you want to look into that so you can take advantage of our low rates. If you were to open a checking account within the first 60 days that you spend $25, we will help you with that as well. We will reimburse the $25 as long as you make a purchase using your checking account debit card itself not a withdrawal from the ATM, a purchase within the first 50 days, we will do that. And this also applies to our business checking accounts. Something that we want to make sure you're aware of is that we have our new Platinum Low credit card. If you apply for our new Platinum Low credit card, you can enjoy 0% introductory rate on balance transfers. Again, this is for new Platinum Low rate credit cards. New ones, 0% introductory rate on balance transfers up to 6 billing cycles, plus great low rates. Yes, ma'am.
Can I ask a question about that? Do we charge a fee for balance transfers?
No, we don't do that. Other institutions do. We don't have no annual fee either. So that's something that is also a savings for our member owners or future member owners itself. So you want to take advantage of saving some money for no charges for balance transfers, no annual fees itself. We also offer other type of credit cards that gives you different benefits. But again, take advantage of this 0 introductory rate balance transfer. You can transfer from other institutions to us, and that way we can help you start saving money itself. Like I mentioned, we have other credit cards. So you were to open a new Visa Platinum Rewards credit card, you can earn a certain amount of connection points, up to 25,000. When you talk to your loan officer in order to get this credit card, they'll give you more details exactly on how this works, the earning of the 25,000 connection points, 25,000 connection points, no annual fee. So it's very important that you look at that and see the benefits of that. Let's go to the next page. The next page is for our current member owners. Those wondering, okay, I'm a member owner, I already have a checking account, I already have a credit card. Well, we want to make sure that you also feel the love that we're passing on. And if you were to refer a individual or give the gift of membership to one of your family members, household members, when they open their account and you are the referring individual, you will get $25 plus the person opening the account, as mentioned before, will get the $25 because they're using the new special code. So, and again, once a member, always a member itself. So, Jamie, we got about 5 minutes left in the schedule. Let's make sure that we go with other questions that are popping up here towards the end. They're asking again, what is the code? So the code for becoming a member, a brand new member, this week only until Saturday, I want to make sure you're aware of that, from now till Saturday, is CU Charlie Utah 2023. So that's there. We'll put it in our chat here in a couple of seconds. That way you all can see it. Somebody's asking to please display the wellness slide again. I believe this is the slide, Amy?
Yep.
Okay, so we got two out. Let's see. Repeat the code. Somebody's asking, at what point in life should we start saving for our first home?
So that again is going to depend on each individual situation. I would say it's never really too early, right? The more you can put down, the better. But ultimately, you don't want to go into a home purchase with a lot of debt. So I'd say once your debt is paid off, or at least paid down very, very low, that's the time to start beefing up your down payment savings. And of course, I would highly recommend that you have your emergency fund fully established in addition to your down payment savings. So 3 to 6 months worth of income, debt paid off, then your home purchase. That's going to give you the best foundation, I think. So you're not going into a home basically broke. You've heard the term house poor. You don't want to do that if you can avoid it. So those are the best steps I'd say certainly people have done it in other orders and it works out okay, but that would be my recommendation.
Correct. You don't want to be home poor. That's definitely not a good thing. Jamie, somebody's asking, should I save money, put money in my savings, or should I pay my loans sooner and balance it out as it is?
Yeah, that's a great question. We get that a lot. Um, that's where that $1,000 kind of baby emergency fund comes into place. You definitely want to save that first. Get your, kind of mini emergency fund in place, and then start putting everything that you can towards the debt and get that paid off. Sometimes we want to jump ahead into investing and throwing money into our 401k and all of this kind of stuff while we still have a lot of debt out there. But if you think about it this way, the faster you can get out of debt, the more money you could be putting towards savings and investments and build it up just as fast. Usually, your interest rates on credit cards and loans are going to be higher than the rate of return on savings. So I would say knock out that debt first and then focus on savings.
Good. Jamie, they're asking, the usage of a credit card, if you don't use it that often, will that affect your credit score?
It's going to affect your credit score if that card gets closed. So some financial institutions, if you don't use the card every 6 months or 12 months, they may close it on you. They will usually send you a letter letting you know that that's going to happen before it happens, and then you can decide if you want to go make a little charge on it just to keep it active, or if it's something you're really not wanting to use anymore anyway, go ahead and close it. Yes, closing a card can affect your credit score some, by all means, but will the benefit outweigh the risk of that? If you have other credit available, you're paying it down, you're going to be fine. When I went through the last time, basically, that I went through a debt payoff plan, I did close multiple credit cards. Yes, my score went down temporarily, but it did come back up, and it's a very healthy level now, even though I only have, I think, 2 credit cards that are open and that I keep active.
Good. Jamie, we are almost at that time of the moment. It's 2 o'clock. So I'm going to say thank you again for everyone that is tuning in. Remember that if we didn't get to your question, or yours is more one of a personal nature, we'd be more than happy to reach out to you. Just indicate it on the survey that's going to be going out to you later once we close the webinar itself. And one of our subject matter experts will reach back to you early next week to help you with that answer that you're looking for, or that spending plan page that you're looking for, or for an appointment with them. Please make sure you follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Like I said before, make sure you like it, make sure you follow us, make sure you ring that bell, smash the button on YouTube, follow us on Facebook for more helpful financial tips and alerts regarding our upcoming events. On behalf of Fern, Jack, Jamie, and Anna, that is on the other side as well, and myself and the entire credit union, stay safe, healthy, be happy. Thank you. Jamie, anything else you would like to add to this subject?
No, just thank you again for joining us today. We're great questions. So glad that you were with us. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.